Today, I'm going to talk about some easy techniques that will improve your photography game. Hey, what's up everyone? You good? This is Hyunmin Jung from HMJ Photography. So, of course, you can take some nice pictures without having so much knowledge of photography. However, there are some very easy techniques that you can try right away that will improve your photography significantly. There are some pictures that requires some techniques. I'm not saying that I know all the photography techniques because I don't. Trust me, I don't. So today, I want to describe some techniques by describing how I shot some of my photos. First one. This is a portrait of my wife. With this picture, I wanted to recreate the style of one of my favorite portrait photographers, Platon. There are so many different types of portraits and so many different ways to shoot a portrait. However, one of the most common ways to shoot a good portrait is to focus on the eyes or an eye that is closest to your camera and make the background blurry. In other words, bokeh. To achieve that look, what you need to do is bring down the f-stop as much as you can, ideally under f1.8. When the f-stop is low, the depth of field becomes very shallow, which means it creates nice bokeh. I use this 85mm f1.4 lens, but even with f1.8, which is much cheaper, you can create some nice creamy bokeh. When the depth of field is so shallow, it might be a bit difficult to focus. So don't hesitate to use autofocus. I use autofocus all the time and I only use manual focus when I absolutely need to. Also, if you're not so comfortable with using complete manual mode, what you can do is you can use aperture priority mode, which is a mode that when you set the f-stop, the camera will do the rest of exposure calculations for you. In a portrait, I think the main thing that should speak to you are the eyes. One of the ways to do that is to use a strobe and show that light in the eyes. I use this Godox AD200 Pro and this white umbrella. I really like this because I can easily take this anywhere and it does the job that I need it to do. Okay, next one is this. This is a photo I took in Korea and I want you to look at the buildings in the background that kind of looks like it's stacked up like Jenga. From a certain point, it stops looking three-dimensional and it's almost like a one slab. Have you seen photos of this crazy bridge in Japan? I know it looks cool, but it's not like Japanese people enjoy free roller coaster ride every day. I wish, but my photo and this crazy bridge photo is a result of an effect you can get by using a telephoto lens. When you use a telephoto lens, it compresses the elements inside your photo, and as a result, you can get this quirky look. At the time I took this photo, the longest lens I had was 90mm macro lens, which is not typically used for this kind of purpose, and it's on the shorter side of telephoto lenses, so it doesn't look as crazy as that roller coaster bridge, but I was able to get some of the looks that I wanted. Next up, this one's a picture of our dog, Lucas. I asked him to stand on 2 feet and stand very still. Good dog, huh? Well, obviously, that's not true. To capture the moment of a moving object, like dogs in this case, you need to bump up that shutter speed. In this photo, I use a shutter speed of 500th of a second. One of the easier ways to achieve this look is to use a shutter priority mode. Or you can train your dogs to be perfectly still. Okay, next one. Can you see how these two guys look almost like they're inside of this moving black car? Well, this is a combination of a technique and a luck. I was experimenting with a slower shutter speed, in this case, 1/6 of a second, and because the car is moving faster than the pedestrians, I was able to achieve this look. Usually, when your shutter speed is slow, it can easily become a very shaky photo. However, in this case, this camera that I used to shoot this photo has image stabilization inside, so I was able to produce somewhat usable photo. But usually, I would recommend you using tripods. Well, unless you have a very steady hands. Speaking of slower shutter speeds, take a look at this one. Can you see how the movement of this water on a fall looks almost like a white thread? Well, actually, the name of this fall is called a white thread waterfall, but to achieve this look, I had to use a shutter speed of 30 seconds. Even with image stabilization and a very steady hand, it's impossible to stay still for 30 seconds, so you have to use a tripod. Opening the shutter for 30 seconds means that it's going to take in a lot of lights. Even with the highest f-stop of 22 and the lowest ISO of 50, it was still very bright. So I had to use this ND filter, which is basically a Ray-Ban for your lens. I share some of the techniques that I use to take my pictures, but there are many other ways, maybe even more effective ways. So just keep practicing and experimenting. You don't always have to be so serious when you press the shutter button. Play with your camera. Thank you very much. Please like, subscribe, and share. Until next time.